guys, give me 1 second. Everything went haywire all at once. Okay. All right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, devotional time for Mindset family. It is good to see you. I am glad and happy to be with you here on tonight or today. So you already know what to do. If you're here live right now, then comment live in the comments and let me know where around the world you are tuned in from. And if you're catching the replay later on, no problemo. Comment replay and still let me know where you're tuned in from. Okay, Boopy? Hey, Joyce. Hey, Katasha is back. June, 3 Empress, Tiffany, Ike, Jay, Charles, Muhammad, Amy, good to see ya. Over here on Facebook, we have Sister Brittany back with us, live from Oklahoma. Mama Net back with us, live from Indiana. Good to see you. Hey, Jaleesa. And Katasha is live from Maryland. All right, we got some returning family. We got some new family. Hey, Nikki, let me know if this is your first time tuning in to Devotional Time for Mindset. All right. Hey, Miss Lumby. So, family, we are on day 34. Can you believe that we are already a third of the way through Driven D? Nikki is her second time. Thanks for coming back, Nikki. Good to see you again. Hey, Greg, thanks for tuning in. We're a third of the way through of our 100-day journey of devotional time for mindset. Can y'all believe it? Woo, seems like we just started yesterday. Hey, Sassy Grits, this year is already flowing by very quickly. It literally seems like it was New Year's Eve just last week, right? And we are already into November. So, hey, Lynn, hey, Betty, thanks for tuning in. If you are new in this space, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lindsay Vertner. I'm a mindset expert, speaker, and actress, and I work with high achieving leaders to help them prioritize self without guilt. Specifically, I like to focus on what I call the 3 pillars of self, which is self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline, because those 3 pillars subconsciously impact every single thing that we do in life. And it is my purpose, okay, Sarah, to help each and every one of you create your first class life, which is a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. Aunt Fran is back live from Chicago. Good to see you again. Hey, Robbie. Hey, Betty. Okay, guys, listen, but devotional time for mindset is not about me, okay? It is about us, Mel. We are a family here, all right? We're here to encourage and support one another and help keep our minds on track so that we can live a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness, all right? Because the enemy knows just how powerful our mind is, Dee and Liz. And the enemy wants to keep us stuck in his prisons, stuck in his strongholds, just stuck in negativity, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and all the things that he can use to destroy and cause destruction in our lives. Okay, Sarah? So that is why we're here, learning how we can be aware of how the enemy will attack our minds and we can fight back so that we can live in the goodness and joy. And anytime we are experiencing things, we can be asleep on the boat. Okay, catch that reference. Sister Tabitha is live from Indianapolis, Indiana. Hey, Sahar, let me know where you're tuning in from. Okay, guys, so we are on day 34 of devotional time for mindset. And if you would like to follow along with us as we go through our devotional, then you can actually download your free copy of the book, Battlefield of the Mind Devotional by Joyce Meyer, which is the book that we are guiding this devotional by. You can download your free copy at mindsetmastersuite.com. Hey, Brandon. MindsetMasterSuite.com. You can also submit prayer requests. You can click the join live button to join me live in the discussion. You can contribute to our favored list. So I need for all of you to put in your answers there. And just check out all of the tools and resources at MindsetMasterSuite.com. Okay, so let's get started. Hey, Poetic Songs, good to see you back again. Let's get started with our day 20. No, not 24. I'm taking us backwards. Nancy is back live from LA. Good to see you again. I'm taking us backwards. We are on day 34, not 24. Y'all, are y'all ready for day 34? Now, remember, we are streaming across 8 different platforms. So please put your comments and your questions down in the comment section and know that I will do my best to get to each and every one of those. But do know that sometimes I may miss one here or there, but please don't take it personal. It's not intentional. Hey, Brandon says hey, and Poetic Songs has a hand wave over on Instagram. And you guys, please share this live stream out. No matter which platform you are tuned in on, share this live stream out. Nancy says, hey, y'all. Good to see you, pizza porridge. Okay, let's get started with day 34. And again, if you're new here, every single day I will read the devotional at the beginning of our time. And after I read the day's devotional, then we will have a discussion, which means y'all got to talk to me in the comments. Okay, so let's get started. Day 34, the topic is I want a mind change. The opening scripture reads, and you he made alive when you were dead by your trespasses and sins, in which at one time you walked. You were following the course and fashion of this world, following the prince of the power of air. You were obedient to and under the control of the demon spirit that still constantly works in the sons of disobedience, the careless, the rebellious, and the unbelieving who go against the purposes of God. The devotional reads, I find a great deal of comfort in thinking about who I used to be and who I have become. It helps me not to get discouraged when I make mistakes or find that I still struggle over some issues. I'm greatly encouraged when I consider where I started and where I am now. In Ephesians 2, Paul described those outside of Christ. He wrote that unbelievers follow the prince of the power of the air, who is Satan, and they follow that their way, and they follow the way their master leads. In verse 1, he pointed out that all were once dead through their sins, but believers are now alive in Jesus Christ. He tells us we're not governed or led by our lower nature, the impulses of our flesh. Many Christians have trouble in this area because they haven't learned to control their thoughts. A lady once told me, it simply didn't occur to me that I needed to direct my mind and keep it healthy and positive. If ministers preached or taught about the control of our thoughts, I never heard it. One day, however, I read an article about the power of thoughts and God convicted me. That's when I knew I needed to change my thinking. This lady said she drove down the street of a busy city and spotted a sign, a cartoon of a car with big eyes for the front lights and tears flowing, and the words that read, please help me, I need an oil change. As she passed by, she thought to herself, I need a mind change. I don't like being the way I am, letting my mind go wherever it wants. Part of my responsibility as a child of God is to keep my thoughts healthy and strong. I want to make it clear that I went to church, she said, and I had been active for years. I knew a lot of scripture and I even did some volunteer work at the church, but I didn't control my thoughts. Even when I sang in church, my mind jumped from subject to subject. We'd be singing about joy and grace, and I'd think about the dishes still in the sink, the unfinished laundry, or what I wanted to eat for lunch. I attended church and I was faithful, but I was not faithful in attending to the word. I listened when the preachers quoted scripture. I usually followed along with my own Bible, but I didn't really think about what I was hearing or what my eyes were reading. I was doing the right things outwardly, but I wasn't thinking the right things. My mind was a mess and I didn't know what to do about it. I need a mind change, she said suddenly. Suddenly, she said aloud to herself, excuse me. Just then, she actually pondered the words she had spoken. She she was like the car on the sign. She needed a change, a mind change. She needed to let the Holy Spirit direct her thoughts instead of the devil. As she prayed, she felt confident there would be a positive change. She thought to herself, is there anything I am supposed to do? She realized that if she didn't make lifestyle changes, the devil would soon make the new thinking as muddy and gunky as the old thinking was. For the next several days, she looked up all the scriptures she could find that used the word study or meditate. She also looked up scriptures that talked about the mind or thoughts. She read those verses, wrote them on slips of paper, and pondered them. Here are three of them. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. From Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7. And be constantly renewed in the spirit of your mind, having a fresh mental and spiritual attitude. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 23. My hands also will I lift up in fervent supplication to your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. Psalm 119, verse 48. The more she meditated on the right things, the less trouble she had with Satan trying to control her thoughts. That's how it works with all of us. The more we focus on God, the less often the devil can defeat us. The closing prayer reads, thank you, great God, for giving me a mind change. Help me always to be free to serve. Help me always to be free to serve you with my heart, my soul, and my mind. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Okay, I see some new faces. Dee Dee is back. Welcome, Nangi. Let me know if this is your first time here. Hey, Adana. Demiza Zina? Demiza Zina? Not sure exactly what your name is, but hello, welcome. Hey, Putu, good to see you again. Hey, user. Hey, Trisha. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Devotional Time for Mindset. Brittany says your hair is cute. Oh, thank you, Brittany. And hey, Ajit is here, watching from Calcutta, Indiana. Not Indiana, excuse me. Look, I'm getting it confused. Kolkata, India. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Okay, guys. Day 34. That was our devotional reading. So if you are just tuning in, this is day 34 of our 100-day journey of devotional time for mindset. If you want to follow along in the reading that we just did, then you can download your free copy at Battlefield of the Mind Devotional by Joyce Meyer. Download your free copy at mindsetmastersuite.com. Okay. You can also submit a prayer request. You can contribute to our favorite list. You can click the join live button. All the things you need are at mindsetmastersuite.com. You either see it on your screen or in the description or caption, depending on where you're watching. So, guys, let's get into day 34. The topic of I want to change my mind. Well, first things first that I want to tell you is that God will meet you where you're at. Okay? No matter what kind of change we're going to make, it is not going to happen overnight, especially if it's something that you've been building up for years and years and years and years, decades maybe. Okay, it is not going to happen overnight. So don't think that you have to get it perfect as soon as you start. Don't think you have to get it perfect overnight. Don't think that, oh, can do it once and I can make the adjustments and it's going to set me for the rest of my life, because you're going to set yourself up for failure. Okay, Amanda? It is something that we consistently have to work on. And then what happens over time is that we will improve and we will get better and we will get better and it will get easier and a little bit easier. And the next time we find ourselves in the struggle, it'll be a little easier to catch it and a lot easier to get ourselves out of it. Not saying it still won't be hard work and not saying that you might not be frustrated and angry sometimes, but it'll be a lot easier to course correct whenever you've already been practicing the things. You feel me? So just remember, God will meet you exactly where you're at. Hey, Matt, thanks for tuning in. And start from there. And that is a good thing to actually take note of. Identify where you are now. So I want everybody to actually think about that right now. Think about the things in your life, maybe your financial situation, maybe your job, maybe in a relationship. Think about where you are now. Okay? And let that be your guiding post, your marker. And then I want you to think about where you were a year ago in that same area. Now, for some of you, you're going to be in the same spot. But for others of you, you're going to be like, dag, you know what? I didn't actually think about how far I've actually come. But we're all here to support and encourage each other. So no matter which one of you are, we can all make improvements and still keep moving forward. But we have to be mindful of where we started. Where you are in your finances right now is not where you were in your finances 5 years ago. It maybe is still not where you want to be, but think about how much progress you've made over the last 5 years. Hey, Truly Me 212, good to see you back. Hey, May is back with us too. Good to see you. Okay. Now, others of you might be thinking about your relationship and where you were 5 years ago, you're still in the same place now. And unfortunately, it's not in a healthy space. So then you need to reevaluate and think about, okay, what are some things that I need to do differently? Maybe there are some things that I need to let go. Maybe there are some boundaries that I need to make. I don't know. I can't answer that for you. Hey, Dion, good to see you. First, you need to take that conversation to the Lord and ask you what the Lord wants you to do. Is it a relationship that you need to maintain, or is it a relationship that you need to let go? And I'm going to bet that it's probably maybe likely the latter. But we just didn't want to listen. And don't feel bad. We've all been there at some point in our lives. Okay. Hey, Levon. Hey, Nadiji. Hopefully I said that correctly. Hi, Danielle. May says, hey, over on Clubhouse. Okay. So just remember, start a marker and think about where you are now and where you started from. And if you can't even remember where you started from, or you're just now starting now, then today is your marker. So that next week you can think about, oh, look how far I've came in a week. And then this time next year, you can think about, oh, look how far I've came in the past year. Okay. If we don't have a marker of where we used to be, then it's hard to tell how much progress we've made. Charles says, you look beautiful. Thank you, Charles. So we have to have that marker because it's real easy to beat up on ourselves and be like, oh, I'm doing all this work and I'm not making any progress. And that's exactly where the enemy wants you to be. Because the more that we start to think that negative thought that I'm doing this work for nothing, it's not getting me anywhere, I keep finding myself in the same spot, then eventually we'll start to give up hope. And then that will lead way into hopelessness. And we learned on previous days that hopelessness is not where we want to be. So we have to think about, where am I now, and look how far I've came. Let me give you a quick example. Have any of you ever tried to grow out your hair, or maybe you tried to lose weight? Either one. I feel like everybody can relate to one of those two examples. And sometimes what happens, you look in the mirror and you feel like, geez Louise, my hair is just not growing. But then you go and you look at a picture from a year ago compared to a picture that you just took yesterday, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought my hair wasn't growing, but it actually grew a whole 6 inches or 12 inches compared to this picture from a year ago. But because we're in it, we're in the trenches and we see it every day, it's hard to see those small changes. But we've learned on previous days how little by little is what makes the difference. It's the little seemingly insignificant things that we do consistently every single day that makes the big differences a year from now, or 5 years from now, or a month from now. Okay, Jennifer? Same with losing weight. If you're trying to lose weight and you're looking in the mirror like, geez Louise, I feel like I am not just getting any pounds off. I'm not losing any inches. Well, then we look at a picture from a month ago compared to a picture from today, and you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Compared to these pictures, I lost an inch. It doesn't look like it when I'm just looking at it by itself, when I'm looking at my body right now as a standalone body. But when I compare this body to the body that I had a month ago, I do see some changes. Okay. Nancy says, yep, letting go. Mm-hmm. So we have to have these markers when we're thinking about improving the way that we're thinking, because it works for all of the things. And remember, when we don't keep track like that, and we want to make sure that we don't fall in the pattern of keeping track as a way to deter us and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't make my goal yesterday, so now I'm going to quit. No, but we definitely want to make sure that we're keeping track so that we can look back and say, okay, I didn't do too well today, but yesterday I did amazing in keeping up with my goal. I fell off the wagon a little bit today, but last week I did a great job. It also helps you to give yourself grace. Hey, user 8713, good to see you back again. Because then on those days when you're feeling down in the dumps, like you didn't make much progress or that you failed at your goal, you can look back and say, okay, today it wasn't a great day, but I have succeeded and I can continue to succeed as long as I don't give up. Hey, Edward. So we've talked about change already in devotional time for mindset. And I'm not sure. Let me see. Can I look back really quickly in my notes to see the specific day that we had a whole discussion about change? Give me a second. I feel like I'm close to it. Yep. Is this it? Is this it? Yes. Day 23. So I would encourage you to go back and watch day 23 replay. Okay. And if you were tuned in and you watch it again. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So let's talk about a few more obstacles to change. We won't go deep into it because, again, we had a whole discussion about it on day 23. But sometimes, whenever we are aware of the obstacles of the thing that we're about to face, here's what's going to happen. Some of us are going to get scared and we're not going to do anything. And we talked about that the other day when Jesus sent the spies into the promised land, and 10 of the 12 spies that he sent failed the test because they saw the people that they were going to have to fight to gain the land, and they got scared. And they forgot about the miracles that God could do. And they got scared and said, no, we shouldn't go in there because they are going to just absolutely demolish us. Okay. But obstacles, seeing them in advance can be helpful because then you know what to expect. That doesn't mean that you won't have like something out the blue come every now and then, but you're more prepared to handle the obstacles if you know what to expect. Just like why we're here for devotional time for mindset. If we understand the enemy's playbook and the tricks that he uses against us to hold us back from walking in our purpose, then we can catch them a lot faster. Just like if you were in a sport, doesn't matter which sport, just pick one: basketball, soccer, football, pick any of them. If you know the other team's playbook, your opponent's playbook, then when they try to run the play, they won't be able to be successful against you because you know which move they're going to make. And you can make the move before them or force them in a different direction that you want them to go in. So, we're going to look at a few more obstacles that could hold us back from thinking positively. Cynthia says, hey, let us know where you're tuned in from. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Cynthia? Was that right? ThenTher? And then we have Thin tuning in on, so we have Thinter on Facebook and then Thin on Clubhouse. Welcome. Good to see you. Nancy says, that's me right now. Thank you for this. Absolutely. That is what we're here for, Nancy. Let me know where you're tuning in from, Thin and Lena and Lauren and T and Jen that just tuned in over on TikTok. So, what are some obstacles that might prevent us from thinking positively? Okay, so the first thing is that you can be unaware of your need for change, but the fact that all of you are here tuned into devotional time for mindset means that excuse is out the window. You can't use it anymore because now you know better. And when you know better, you can do better. But remember, doing better is always a choice. Nobody's going to force you to do better. People can hope you do better. People can encourage you to do better, but ultimately the choice is yours and yours alone to do better. God's not even going to force you to do better because then he would be taking away your free will that he gave all of us. Center says Chicago. And Fran from Chicago. Well, welcome. We're glad you could tune in. Okay. And everybody, be like Aunt Fran. Invite your friends and your family to tune in to Devotional Time for Mindset, okay? The more, the merrier. All right. So, you guys are aware that we need to be focused on our positive thoughts and fighting it back against the enemy. Hey, Kinsley, thanks for tuning back in. So you guys can't use that excuse. So I don't want to hear y'all say that at all. That excuse for you is out the window. Like I said, when you know better, you do better. But then you always have the choice to do better once you actually know better. But for some people, they don't know any better. So we can't necessarily fault them for doing the things that they do or thinking the way that they think because they know no other way. They have never been exposed to better. They have never been exposed to more. And so the way that they think and the way that they feel is the only thing they know in their mind. And we can help them out. Sister Tabitha says, I promise I do. Well, thank you. Thank you. So, oh, and remember, the enemy wants you to think that there's no other way. So for those people that think that there is no other way, that's where we can come in because we know better and we know that there is another way. And we can encourage them and say, hey, you don't have to do that. You don't have to think like that. You don't have to say that. You don't have to behave like that. And we want to make sure that if we do that, we're doing it in a very non-judgmental way because we're not the judge. Okay, Notori? We want to be loving and empathic and sympathetic and compassionate. Okay. And we want to correct them with love, guide them with love, and say, look, I understand you may be thinking this, or I understand you may be feeling this, but I just wanted to let you know that there is another way. And it looks something like this. And once you plant the seed, you move on and go about your business. Okay. Cynthia says, amen to non judgmental. And if you've been here before, then you know Devotional Time for Mindset is a judgment free zone. All right. This is a safe space for everyone. So, some other obstacles that might hold us back from changing our thinking is that it makes us uncomfortable. That is the second number one reason. Second number one reason. Well, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? The second top reason. First, we don't know any better, but we can't use that excuse. Second, it makes us uncomfortable. A lot of people don't change because you got to put in work. It makes you uncomfortable and it's easier to stay the same. We talked about that on day 23. It is easier to stay the same, even if you don't like it, even if it's painful, because we get comfortable in our chaos. Okay, Kenny? And you might think, like, who would be comfortable in chaos? Who likes to enjoy pain? We all do. And that is why we will repeat cycles. And that is why we won't leave situations that we know we need to leave, even though those situations are causing us some type of pain, whether that's physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, financial pain, spiritual pain. Hi, I love pink. Good to see you back. Because we're comfortable in our chaos. And we talked about on day 23 how your level of pain must surpass the pain of change because it can be painful to make changes in anything in your life. And until you pass that threshold, you won't make any changes, no matter how much complaining that you do. So, changing our thinking can be uncomfortable sometimes. Changing our thinking can decrease our pleasure. And what did we say the brain likes to do? It likes to decrease our pain and increase our pleasure. So if this change is causing my pleasure to decrease, I think I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing instead of making the changes that I need to make. Even though what we don't understand in that moment is that our feelings wants us to stay there. But we learned on previous days that our feelings aren't fact. Our feelings are not reality. Our feelings are valid, but they aren't fact. And our feelings are fleeting. They change with the wind. And they also often produce false emotions, false narratives for us that only keep us in our feelings even more. So if you start to change and you start your pleasure is going away, from the changes that you're making, your brain is going to say, abort, abort. You're taking away my pleasure. No, I want to decrease pain and increase pleasure. So stop what you're doing because you're decreasing my pleasure. And what we don't realize is that that's a short-term gain. So you stop what you're doing and you get all the pleasure back, but it's only pleasurable for the moment. Whenever those changes that we need to make are actually going to bring long-term gain. Okay, Patricia? You guys following me? Another obstacle that we might incur as we are working to change our thoughts is peer pressure, going against the status quo. And Kinsley, baby, I believe that you are my son's friend. Glad to see you tuned in. If you're still tuned in over there on Instagram, take note of this one because it's definitely rampant in your teenage years. Okay. But crazy thing, a lot of adults don't grow out of this either. Peer pressure. You don't want to be the odd one out. And sometimes thinking differently requires you to be the odd man out, requires you to move differently than the people around you. Dr. Jackie is in the house. She says, hola, let us know where you're tuned in from, Dr. Jackie. We don't want to be the outcast. And that's okay. It's part of human nature to want to be accepted and want to be a part of a group. But unfortunately, it can hold us back from the things that we know we're supposed to do. Okay, Miss Deb? And so that's another obstacle. And then lastly, sometimes it's a defense mechanism or survival tactic. Hey, Monica. Our brain thinks that it is trying to protect us because remember, our brain wants to keep us alive, decrease pain, and increase pleasure. And our brain likes patterns. It likes the familiar. And we learned on previous days that it's an evolutionary thing that our brain does, making us think of all the negative because back in the day, it was important to keep us alive from the dangers of the world. And it stuck with us as we have evolved as humans. But unfortunately, sometimes it wants to protect you from things that are good for you. And we can't fault our brain for doing its job. But we just have to remind it, wait, I'm safe. This thing that I'm trying to do is not a threat. It's not a threat to my mental state. It's not a threat to my emotional state. It's not a threat to my physical state. It's not a threat to my social state, which is what we just talked about with the peer pressure. So although I thank you, brain, for trying to protect me and keep me in my old ways, I need to make this change so that I can improve and get better, improve myself or improve my circumstances. Ooh, Dr. Jackie's tuned in from St. Lucia. Is it nice and warm there? Oh, I feel like it's warm. I could use a beach right now. Hey, Muriel. Hey, Goy. I didn't see you guys pop in. Let me know where you're tuned in from. All right. So those are some obstacles that we can expect to experience as we work on changing our thoughts from negative to positive. Because remember, the brain likes consistency. And it's going to take some time to rewire our brain. They used to think back in research and science that once you reached a certain age that you couldn't change, that your brain was permanent. You couldn't make changes in your personality. You couldn't make changes in your behavior or anything like that. But we have since learned that that is not true. Anyone can change at any time in their lives. Your thinking can change and your behaviors can change at any time in your life. It doesn't matter how old you've been. You can teach an old dog new tricks, okay? But it's going to take some time. So let me give you guys a quick visual, and then we're going to learn some ways that we can improve our thinking from negative to positive. Okay, so I need for everybody, this will be easy for those of you that actually live in climates where it gets cold and snow comes on the ground. For those of you that are living in the wonders of beaches and sun year round long, so sometimes in other places, we have this thing called rain that falls from the sky. And because the weather is so cold outside, the temperature is so cold, when the rain falls from the sky, it turns to ice. It turns to snow. It freezes on the way down and it covers the ground in snow. Okay. Oh, lucky you guys not to have to drive in snow. So, if you've never had the pleasure of being outside in snow, just walk with us for a second because I'm sure everybody else, sometimes you like the snow, sometimes you don't like the snow. But here's what happens. It just snowed. You wake up and now you got to go to the grocery store. You got to go to work. You got to run an errand. You got to go to a friend's party. And what do you do whenever you're driving in the snow? If you're not a driver, picture yourself walking in the snow. Usually, you will try to one, wait and see if they cleared the roads before you drive. If the government comes through and clears the roads out, and if they haven't, then you try to drive in the path that other people have already driven or walk in the footsteps that other people have already stepped. Why do you do that? Because it's easier to get through when you're walking through a path that's already cleared, when you're driving on the road that's already been cleared and they already put salt down, they already shoveled the snow off of the road, right? Otherwise, what happens? If you're walking, you might get snow in your boots or snow in your shoes. You, depending on how much snow it was, it might be up to your knees. If you're in your car might swerve, or you might get stuck in the snow if it's deep enough. And so think about that. We like to go in the snow on the paths that have already been created. Why? Because it's easier. It's more familiar. You guys following? And guess what? Our brain makes pathways just like that every single day. It never stops. They're called synapses. For simplicity, we'll call them channels. Have you ever had like or saw a ball of cable wires, of plugs? Maybe you got your computer plug, your phone plug, your iPad plug, your fan plug, just all kinds of plugs, and they're all jumbled up in a mess. And you're trying to untangle the cords. Maybe behind your TV, you're trying to untangle the cords. Well, all that wiring is happening in our brain on a regular basis. And here's what happens with negative thinking. With negative thinking, it's going to already have familiar pathways in our brains. And so whenever things happen in our day-to-day lives, it's easy to go right to the negative thinking because it's familiar. There's already been a way cleared out for that thought. And the more we think about that thought, we're only reinforcing that way more and more and more. You guys following me? But we have the ability to make changes, to make a new pathway. Yes, it's going to take a little more work. Yes, we got to get out the shovel and shovel away the snow. Yes, we got to get out the ice pick and chisel away at the ice a little bit. Yes, we got to take the snow salt and pour it on the ground. Do a little more work, put in a little more effort because nobody's cleared the road yet. Yes, we got to get a little bit of snow in our boots. But once we clear the way, the next time we go to take that path, it becomes a little easier. And then the next time, it's a little easier. And then the next time, it's a little easier. And before you know it, that is your natural route to get to where you're going. You guys still following me? You following this analogy? Let me give you one more. Hikers. Maybe everybody's not liking the snow. Hikers, what do they normally say whenever you are hiking in I don't know, wherever you guys go to hike? I'm not a hiker. You hike in the woods, you hike in the forest, you hike on the hills, at the national parks. There's usually a sign. I have seen this when I go to the parks. Make sure, hikers, that you stay on the pathway that has already been created for you. Why do they put that sign there? Because they've already carved it out for you so that it's easier for you to walk as you are going on your hike. There might be dangers when you go off road or off the path, or you might get lost when you go off the path, or it's going to be harder to take this hike when you go off the path because they haven't cleared a path for you. Your brain's going to make you think the same thing, that if you go off this path and do something different, it's going to be harder. But here's the thing with our brain, unlike in hiking, sometimes we need to go off the path and make a new path because usually the path that's already written for us is a negative one. You guys following me? Y'all are real quiet in the comments today. So let me know if those made sense, okay? And if you followed all of those examples, because now we're going to talk about some ways that we can improve our thinking. And first and foremost, Brittany says, yes, okay, thank you. Hey, VA Jesus Seeker and Laylee Baby and She Kitty, thanks for tuning in. So first and foremost, speaking of tuning in, if you are just tuning in, you are watching Devotional Time for Mindset, and this is day 34 of our 100-day journey. This devotional is guided by the book Battlefield of the Mind Devotional by Joyce Meyer. You can download your free copy at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can also submit prayer requests at mindsetmastersuite.com. You can click the join live button at mindsetmastersuite.com and do all the things at mindsetmastersuite.com. And family, if you have been blessed in any way in these previous 34 days, please go to mindsetmastersuite.com and click on the submit a testimony button. Okay, I want to make sure that our time here is actually making a difference. So whether you've been here 5 minutes, 5 days, or you've been here all 5 weeks so far, please go to mindsetmastersuite.com and let me know if this has made an impact in your life already. Okay, please leave your testimony there. Just click the button and fill out the form. Tabitha says, yes, still here, just taking notes. Sister Joyce is back, tuning in from South Carolina. Good to see you guys. Okay, so let's get into some ways that we can improve our minds. Nancy says, so helpful listening to every last word. Thank you, Nancy. Good to know. Okay, y'all just are being extra astute today. You got your pens and papers ready. Okay, you said my hands are busy writing. I can't type, Lindsay. Okay. Duly noted. I got you. So first thing I'm going to direct you to do is to go back and watch day 24 replay. So we talked about day 23 replay, and now also I'm going to direct your attention to day 24 replay, because in that one we talked a lot about ways to change our behaviors and change our thinking patterns. Okay, and because we had a whole lesson on that, I feel like this one just plays off of that. So I'm going to share a few additional tips that go along with day 23 and day 24. Okay, so ways to improve our thinking from negative thoughts to positive thoughts. Number one, watch day 24 replay. Number two, label your thoughts. And you might be, label my thoughts. Well, what does that mean, Lindsay? I'm glad you asked, Louise. This is what I mean by labeling your thoughts. Whenever you catch yourself thinking certain things or feeling certain emotions, I need you to take that beat that we talked about on day 24 and then process, okay? And label your thoughts. For example, how many of you have ever been in sales of any sort? Maybe in your business. If you have a business, then you're always in sales because you're selling your business to other people. You're either trying to get them to buy your product or buy your service. Some of you have been in sales for a corporate position. Maybe our first job was in sales. Maybe you worked at a clothing store when you turned 16 or something. But I feel like the majority of us have some experience with sales to some degree. Is that an accurate statement, family? Hey, Michelle. Is that pretty accurate? Nancy Codwell says 30 years. Yes, she has her hand up. 30 years she's been in sales. I've definitely been in sales in various ways. I used to be in direct sales, actually. So I want you to think about this in sales. So maybe you had to sell yourself to your boss because you wanted a promotion. At some point, we've all been a seller. Aunt Fran says yes. Whether it was in the typical sense or untraditional sense, we've all been a seller to some degree at some point, whether we recognize it or not, especially when we're trying to get somebody to buy into something. to buy into something, like, get them to jump on board with the idea. Essentially, oh, I got this idea, I want you to be a part of it. You have to sell them on your idea to get them to be a part of it. Okay, so now that we've got that out the way, think about sales when I'm telling you this example of labeling your thoughts. So let's say that you have a pitch of some sort coming up, or you have a meeting with a client coming up, and you really need to get this sale. Because if you get this sale, you're going to get a bonus, you're going to get a promotion, you're going to be able to take yourself to the spa. Whatever it is, this specific sale is very important to you. And then you start getting nervous. You start doubting yourself, Keisha. You start feeling anxious, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't get this sale? Oh, what am I going to do if I don't get this sale? If I don't get this sale, I don't get the bonus. If I don't get this sale, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't get this sale, I don't get the promotion. If I don't get this sale, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is that you got to fill in the blank for. What I want you to do is take that beat and catch yourself and all the things that you are thinking and label your thoughts. For example, I am getting nervous that I won't close this sale. And as a result, I will not feel good enough, because that's what it's going to come down to. Those inner limiting beliefs. Some of us will feel like failures, which is what the enemy wants. Some of us won't feel good enough. Some of us will reinforce those negative thoughts. And so you're catching it and you're labeling it and saying, I am getting nervous that I won't close this sale, maybe because I didn't close the last sale. So now I'm worried that I won't close the next sale. And if I don't close the next sale, then that means that I am going to be not good enough. If I don't close the next sale, I will feel not good enough. If I don't close the next sale, I will feel unworthy. So you are labeling your thought. You get it? It's like you're thinking about it externally, but not as a separate entity. You're still focused on you and trying to understand why you feel the way that you feel. You got it, plant whisperers? Joyce says, yes, she did direct sales. Tabitha says, yes, she sold pure romance. That's actually where we met back in the day. Brittany says, hey, love, I finally got to watch. Thanks for tuning in, Brittany, live from Kentucky. Hey, Renelle, good to see you back again. Okay, so let me say that again. I am getting nervous that I won't close this sale. And if I don't close the sale, it will make me feel like I'm not good enough. So that's an example of labeling your thoughts. Calling a spade a spade. You got it? Hey, Shintian. You guys understand that one? Labeling your thoughts. Hey, Flower. Number 2, reframe the situation. Ask yourself, is there another way to think about this? For example, we talked about before, let's say that you're calling and texting your friend is not answering or returning your messages. And then you start to internalize it. You start to take it personal. Look, we can go through the whole steps. First, we can label your thought. I'm feeling anxious that my friend is not answering my calls, that my friend is not returning my messages. I am starting to feel rejected that my friend is not turning my messages. So that's number 1, labeling your thoughts. And then moving into number 2, reframing the situation. Instead of resorting to the negative, taking the easy path to the negative, which is, oh, my friend is mad at me. What did I do wrong? My friend is acting funny. Oh, she being fake. Instead, you are going to reframe the situation. Maybe what else could be going on? What are some other reasons that my friend isn't returning my call? What are some potential circumstances that my friend isn't returning my messages? Maybe she's sick. Maybe she lost her phone. Maybe her kid has her phone. Maybe she thought she already replied. Maybe she's been busy at work, and every time that she thinks about calling you back, she knows that you're going to be asleep, and she is trying to be considerate of you and not disturb you while you're sleeping. So she says, I'm going to call back when I know she's up. but gets distracted during the time that you're up. You guys following? Reframe it. Think, what else could be going on? Okay. Why am I nervous about this upcoming sale that I need to make? I'm nervous because I didn't get the last one. And maybe I didn't get the last one because it wasn't me. Maybe they just didn't have the money, not because I was a failure. Maybe they weren't the best client. Maybe it wasn't what they needed, not because I'm a failure, not because I'm not good enough. Brittany says, yes, yes. So reframe the situation. First, you label your thought, label how you're feeling. And then second, you reframe the situation. And then third, we talked about this a little bit on day 23. Take note of your body. Take that pause and say, how is this making me feel? How is this negative thought making me physically feel? Is it making me feel defeated? Now that's the emotion, but how is it physically making you feel? Maybe when you feel defeated, your shoulders feel a little heavy. Maybe your palms get sweaty. Maybe your breathing starts getting shallow, like. So take note of the physical changes in your body. Maybe it's hard to catch your breath when you're nervous. Maybe you start feeling tightness in your chest. Maybe you feel a little acid burn. That might have been your dinner, but okay. Nancy says, I'm spending Sunday on reframing. Yes, yes. I'm spending Sunday on reframing, and hopefully everyone else is as well. Hey, Spain Elaine. Are you actually in Spain, Elaine? Hey, Dre. Thanks for tuning in. So, you guys, take note of your physical body and the physical changes that are occurring when you think those negative thoughts and say, is this how I want to feel? Do I want my jaws to be clenched together all tight, making my face sore? Do I want tense muscles or do I want to feel relaxed? Okay? Let that be motivation to change your body, relax your mind, focus on your breathing, and think positive thoughts. Okay. Number 4, focus gratitude. Now, I believe on day 24, we talked about gratitude. Is that the day we were supposed to make our love jars? Quick check in the comments. How many of you that were here that day actually have made your love jars? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch the replays, my babes. I think that was on day 24 that we talked about the love jar as well. I'm not sure, so don't quote me. Don't be like, Lindsay, I want to watch day 24 and you did not talk about a love jar. I'm sorry, guys. I think that's the day, okay? I'm not for sure. Just watch all the replays, then you'll for sure find it. All right. So, how many of you actually either all the way made your love jar or you started making your love jar? If you started and you haven't finished it, you're probably doing too much. Remember, it don't have to be perfect. Just get it done and start using it. And then you can go back and make it look prettier. Okay? So, focus gratitude. We talked about being grateful, but what we don't want to do is fall into a routine of just going through the motions. So we have to be very careful that we aren't just saying, "Oh, thank you. Thank you, God, for this. Thank you, God, for that." Saying thank you just to be saying thank you, but actually meaning the gratitude. Yesterday and the day before, we talked about learning the word, reading the word just to be reading it, going through the motions. Some of you go to church just to go to church because you feel like you have to. Some of you say your prayers just to say your prayers because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do as a good Christian person. Some of you read the Bible, but as soon as you put it down, you have no clue what you read. That's what we talked about in the previous 2 days. And so the same thing goes for anything. Don't be saying thank you just to be saying thank you. And so sometimes we can fall into a pattern of monotony and fall into a pattern of just going through the motions. instead of actually experiencing the thing that we are meant to experience. Hey, June, quick question over on Clubhouse. Where are you tuned in from? Didn't mean to call you out like that, but is this your first time here or have you been here before? And I apologize if you are returning, but now I will remember you unless you changed your profile picture. Okay, so what do I mean by focused gratitude? I'm so glad you asked, Lee. Rather than just saying I'm thankful, I'm thankful, I'm thankful, because again, we don't want the words to become meaningless. Y'all have been there before, like where somebody just keeps saying I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and you know they don't really mean it, and they only are saying sorry to make you feel better or to move on, but they don't necessarily mean it. They're saying the words to be saying the words because they feel like they're supposed to be saying the words. Well, it can go the same way whenever we say thank you. Okay. Um, Here's an example. How many of you have kids? I have two of them. And when they were younger, they used to argue. And now that they're older, they argue even more because they are in those funky teenage and preteen years. And I promise, one of them always likes to pick on the other. And then they switch roles. And then the other one likes to pick on the initial one. Right, Maria? Kids, they're so fun, right? So here's what I used to say whenever they were younger. And sometimes, kids, they go through temper tantrums. They're still learning their emotions. They're still learning how to manage their emotions. And they cry and they throw fits and they have temper tantrums. And sometimes, especially if it was a particularly chaotic day where a lot was going on and I'm starting to feel drained and starting to feel exhausted, if I caught myself getting angry or irritable at the fact that they were arguing or crying or throwing a temper tantrum, I would catch myself. And instead of being angry at them for doing what kids do, I would reframe the situation and be grateful. And I would say something like this. I would start off with a deep breath. Anytime you can control your breathing, that's good. Control your breathing, you can control your emotions, okay? Control your breathing, control your temper. So I would always start with deep breaths. And then I would say, God, I am thankful that I am able to hear my baby scream. Now, Cherry, I know you over there looking at me like I'm crazy, but let me explain. Let me explain. Thinther says, yes, everything. Let me explain what I mean, her beautiful identity, and good to see you back again. Nancy says, I have one. He's 30, and we live in different cities. I'm so grateful we talk every day. Yes, I love that. And that's the relationship we want to have with our children. Okay, we want to be their parents while they're young so we can be their friends when they're older. Some of us are trying to be friends whenever they really need a parent, but that's a whole nother story. Let me not get on that soapbox. So I would say, God, I am thankful that I am able to hear my baby scream. I am thankful that I am able to hear my babies argue. Now, you might be wondering, Lindsay, why would you be thankful for such a thing? Here's where it gets interesting. Okay, Vanessa? Because there are some mothers who have never heard their children utter a single word. Mm. Put it into perspective. There are some parents who have never heard their child say hi, or say I love you, or call them mommy, or call them daddy, because their child cannot speak for whatever reason. So, God, I am thankful that my children have the ability to scream and holler, even if it's not what I necessarily want to hear. Or maybe it's the flipped, it's the reverse. Maybe the parent or guardian is hard of hearing. And so their child can speak, but they aren't able to hear. God, I am thankful that I am able to watch my babies pull each other's hair. Because some people are blind and they'll never be able to experience that, or they lost the ability to experience that. Put it into perspective. You guys that have been here before know in 2007, I fully recovered from being brain dead and paralyzed. One of the things that I spoke gratitude over, focused gratitude, not just in general, being very specific and focused on a certain thing in your life, was that, God, I am thankful that I did not lose my sight. Yeah, I can't see right now, but it's only because I don't have any glasses or contacts in, not because I ended up going blind. God, I am thankful that I am still able to hear. Not as clearly as before, but I can still hear. You got it? God, I am thankful that I am not in a wheelchair. So maybe for you, it's I am thankful that I was able to wake up and get in my car and drive to work, even though I need new brakes, even though my heat doesn't work, even though I can't roll my window down. God, I am thankful that I have $192.78 to pay this bill, even though it was my last $192.78. You got it? Focused gratitude. Be specific about the things. And that doesn't mean they always have to be shifting the perspective. It might be something positive. God, I thank you that I was able to lose 1 pound today. Or even better, don't focus on the numbers. I'm not a fitness person, but I have learned that you don't want to focus on the numbers on the scale. You want to focus on the numbers on your waistline. That's where the money is. So God, I am thankful that even though it doesn't necessarily look like it, I lost an inch in my waist. Or God, I'm thankful that even though I haven't hit my fitness goals, I can tell it's working because I have more energy. I'm not as groggy throughout my day. I can focus better since I'm not as groggy. Nancy says, I had tremendous challenges as a child, and as a result, I'm truly filled with gratitude for so many gifts I have received. Thank you for sharing that, Nancy. And I don't know why I can't talk today, guys. Hey, Tosh. Hey, G period. Hey, Law of One. Okay, guys. So focused gratitude. Number 5, name your passenger. Now, y'all, I know y'all like, Lindsay, are you sleepy, girl? I know it's midnight where you are in the world, but you need to go to sleep, y'all. I was tired. I did take a nap before before devotional today. It's been a long day. But no, I'm awake. Number 5. Well, I guess number 6, because I moved number 6 to number 1, which was watch day 24 replay. Number 6, name your passenger. And what do I mean by that? So you guys know that inner voice in your head, those thoughts that you are thinking when you're not actually speaking out loud. When you catch those thoughts, sometimes it is helpful. Now, this is going to sound real silly, Thea, but I promise you it works, Destiny. Sometimes it's helpful to talk in a different voice and give that thing a name outside of your name. I talk in different voices all the time, especially depending on my mood, and I promise it's not a psychotic disorder. Sometimes I just like to talk in different voices because one, it makes life flavorful and fun, but also it helps me to separate the things that I'm thinking and the things that I'm feeling, apart from just making the day more fun. Because we don't have to be so serious all the time. God doesn't even desire for us to be stone cold serious 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If that were the case, He wouldn't have given us the ability to have fun and to experience joy and happiness. And so, whenever we do that, randomly use a different voice, we can help to start to separate those thoughts apart. And what I mean by name your passenger, feel free to name your fear. or name your anger, or name your resentment, or whatever is your typical go-to emotion or negative thought, give it a name. Because again, that helps to start to separate you away from that and understand that you can control it. Like this thing is within me, but it doesn't have to control me. Oh, that was good. Hey, Shay, the most unique artist. This thing is within me, but it doesn't have to control me. Although it's naturally how my brain works, I can rewire it to work differently. So I don't have a specific name for any negative of the negative thoughts that might pop in my head. I will just pop out and say whatever comes out my mouth. Now, why would you do that, girl? Now, I think, yeah, I take that back. I think I just refer to mine as girl. Like I just said. Now, why would you do that, girl? Now, why would you think that, girl? So maybe you might call yours Paul. Look, Destiny says, I heard this last Sunday somewhere else, naming your fear or anger. See? Thank you for sharing that, Destiny. And where are you tuning in from, by the way? Look, I told y'all many times before, I'm not here to lie to y'all. Mm-mm. And if I do lie, it wasn't intentional. I had no clue that I was lying. But I'm not even gonna put that out there because anything that comes out my mouth, I definitely try to make sure it is as truth can be. And do my research and pray to God and say, Lord, speak through me. Don't let me say nothing that is gonna do harm to your people. I don't want that smoke, okay? I don't want that smoke at all. So you see, Destiny over on TikTok, she said she just heard that same thing someplace else, to name your fear or anger. Why? Because it's helpful. We learned yesterday that usually when things are repeated, that's either a confirmation for you, or that means that you either need to learn the lesson that you are learning, or it means that it's generally important. And so you should probably take note. Okay? So feel free to name it. Name it Paul, name it Patty, name it Peggy, name it Ted, name it Danny, whatever you want to name it. But let's say that you're struggling with the fear of not feeling good enough, that you aren't good enough for the things that you desire. You're trying to get that promotion and you're not good enough to get that promotion because you don't have the education, you don't have the credentials, the qualifications, whatever it is. You're trying to start that business, but you're not feeling good enough. And so you're making excuses. Oh, I don't have the money. Oh, I don't have the support. Oh, I come from a small town. Nobody's gonna want that. Or maybe you're not feeling good enough in your relationship. This is what I deserve. No one else is going to love me. So let me stick with this toxic mess. So take all of those thoughts and give it a name. For now, we're just going to call it Peggy. Because that sounds fun. No, I can't call it Peggy, guys. My values are called Peggy. Peggi, not Y. The values of my business. It's literally, do they align with Peggy? Purpose, excellence, growth, and so on and so forth. So let's not use Peggy, okay? Because Peggy in my life, Peggy is good. Peggy is good. Those are my values. Integrity. All right. So let's not use Peggy. Somebody give me a name. Give me a name. Give me a name. Hey, Jay McClinton. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all not gonna give me a name? Y'all just gonna leave me hanging? Okay, we'll use Patty. And for the men, we'll use Paul. It can be opposite sex. It doesn't matter. And so whenever you catch yourself saying those negative thoughts, be like, Patty. Nope, not today, John. I see what you're doing. And then you can thank that Paul or Peggy or Patty or whomever it is that you decide to name and say, look, John, I know you are in my head, and I thank you for trying to protect me, because what did we learn earlier? The brain just wants to protect us. It wants to protect us from the unfamiliar, because the unfamiliar is unsafe to our brain. Because why is it unsafe? Because we don't know what's going to happen. And if we don't know what's going to happen, then how can we keep ourselves safe and alive? And so the brain will do what the brain does and try to stop you from making changes because the brain likes patterns. It likes the familiar. So we have to say, hey, John, listen, thank you for trying to protect me in this moment. However, I'm going to need you to get in the passenger seat because I am driving this car. I am steering this boat. I am flying this plane. And that's what I mean by name your passenger. Because a lot of times we will allow our emotions to drive us throughout life and control those negative thoughts. And we learned in previous days what happens when we are driven by fear and driven by our emotions. It's not good on our lives. It has a negative impact in many, many ways. And so in this case, we are going to name our passenger and say, you think you're about to drive, but not today. I am driving. I need you to take a back seat. And then you are going to make that new path in the snow. Make that new hiking path in the forest. See, and look, y'all, I didn't even mean for that example to go back to the analogy, but look at God circling the lesson back around. Okay, Donald? You guys following? You got it? You catching it? So just name it. Feel free to use a different voice when you talk to it. I will be quick to say, girl, what you're not about to do is get me in trouble. Let me calm myself. Let me rethink. Let me focus on my breathing. Okay? Hey, Denisha, good to see ya. So we have to name our passenger so that we aren't being driven by our emotions. And we definitely aren't being driven by our fear of failure, fear of success, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of being unworthy, and so on and so forth. All right. So, guys, that is all that I have for you today on this day 34. So let's get into our day 34 intentional insight and act. For those of you that are new here, at the end of every devotion, we try to focus the next 24 hours on a specific thing, not all the things in the world, because then you're going to end up doing nothing, but focusing on a specific thing. Isn't that right, Silver Slipper? Nancy says, brilliant. Which part was brilliant, Nancy? Which part was brilliant? I wish that sometimes it would tell you, like, this comment goes to your statement that said dot, dot, dot. That would make things easier, especially if I'm behind on the comments. But so day 34, intentional insight and act, is very simple. Easier said than done, I should say. It's to collect and release your ants. Hey, Carlika, thanks for tuning in. And for all of you that are just tuning in, make sure that you go back and watch the replay because we are wrapping up. So what do you mean by collect and release your ants? I'm so glad you asked, Denisha and Carlika. So ants, I don't actually mean the little bugs that invade our kitchens in the summertime. Now, if you want to think of it and picture it as an ant, that's perfectly fine. Whatever makes it easier for you to implement, okay? Nancy says clarity on the path. Oh, yes, that's what I thought that you were talking about. But thank you for clarifying. Carlika says hello over on Instagram. Hello. Welcome to the devotional time for Mindset Family. So write this down. For those of you that are taking notes, some of you can see it on the screen depending on where you're watching from. Hold on, guys. I need to take a drink. And for everyone else, write this down. So ANT, A-N-T, that stands for automatic negative thoughts. You got it? Automatic negative thoughts. ANT. So your intentional act for day 34 is to collect and release your automatic negative thoughts. What do I mean by that? So glad you asked, Irma. I want you to sit down and just think about all the negative thoughts that come to mind. Okay? And write them down. with your physical hand. Don't type them out, because there are chemical changes that happen when we physically write things out with our hand versus typing them on a keyboard or on a phone. Okay, so sometimes it's important to actually write things out with your hand, especially when it comes to your goals and things that you're trying to change. That doesn't mean that you can't go back and type it later on, especially if you have like chicken scratch handwriting. Carlika put "ant automatic negative thoughts" in the notes on Instagram. Thank you for that. Okay, but I want you to sit down, make sure you have no distractions, and look, again, it don't got to be perfect. Don't feel like, oh, I can't do this unless I have an hour to reflect. No, I'm not asking you to do that. Just take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes. Just set your little timer, sit down, whether you're in your car, at your office, at your desk, in your bed, I don't care where. Just pick a spot and sit there. Take a piece of paper and something to write with, and put 5 minutes on your phone and write down every single negative thought that comes to your mind. Your automatic negative thoughts. And all of these, don't stop writing until the timer goes off. And if you can set it for 10, even better. But I don't want to overwhelm y'all, so we don't start with 5, okay, Gigi? Every single thought that comes to your head, because it's highly likely that these things that you are thinking of are the things that you think about on a regular basis. And they're impacting how you behave on a regular basis. And they are creating the reality that you live in on a regular basis. And they are reinforcing negative experiences on a regular basis. That's why they're so easily coming to mind. Think about all of the negative things that you speak to yourself day in and day out. Okay? So that's you collecting your ant. And then I want you to release your ant. Well, how do you do that? I'm so glad you asked, Keisha. So I want you to go each one ant by one ant by one ant, and write the opposite. So think of an opposite statement that contradicts what you wrote, but then also think about a time that it worked in your favor. Okay? I know that was a little confusing, right? Think about a time that it worked in your favor. So essentially, what you're doing is reframing that negative thought. Remember, we talked about reframing. What was that? That was number 3, technically, I guess. Number 3. That was number 3 on our list today. Okay, so as you're thinking about these negative thoughts, these ants, you're going to write down your fears. You're going to write down your insecurities. You're going to write down your losses. You're going to write down anything that stresses you out. You're going to write down things that irritate you about other people. Think about all the things that you can think about. And that's why I said if you can do longer than 5 minutes, then great. Okay, and then in a separate column, you're going to write down the opposite of that. And then a third column, you're going to write down where it worked out in your favor to some degree. Okay. For example, if you have a fear of failure, write down a time whenever you failed at something. But remember, there is no failure, only if you quit and give up. Write down a time whenever you perceivingly, is that the word I want? Seemingly, you seemingly failed at something, but really there was a lesson in it. So you didn't really fail because you learned something. There are no failures. There's only lessons learned and ways that we can improve and do better. We only fail if we give up, because remember, the enemy wants us to give up. Okay, like we talked about earlier, setting that marker of where you're starting and where you've been so that you can look back and say, you know what? I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. And I've made a lot of progress. So if you wrote something about, not being, oh man, I'm so useless because I didn't achieve my weight loss goal. Okay. Well, in the work in your favor column, write down how much you've improved since you started working out and managing your eating. Are you guys following? Is this making sense? Maybe if you started thinking about a toxic relationship from the past, think about a beautiful moment that came out of that. I can share one with you guys. If you've been here before, then you have maybe heard me talk about my abusive ex-boyfriend. And back whenever I was in the mix of it, I used to say, like, God, what did I deserve? What did I do to deserve such a toxic relationship? But out of that relationship, I ended up meeting my husband, who I have my kids with. So although that was a very bad and negative toxic situation, what did we learn on previous days? God can work all things out for your good. Not some things, not just on Monday things or Thursday things, but all things, no matter whether it's good or bad, he can work it out for your good, make it work in your favor, or make it work something in you. It might not be the results you want, but maybe he's working on a characteristic or a skill within you, even though it wasn't the outcome that you necessarily desired. And so in this case, there was an action that my ex-boyfriend had performed that caused me to change my behavior and put me in a place that I normally would not be, which is where I met my husband. And when I finally got out of that situation, I started dating my husband. So think about the reframe. Maybe that's a better way instead of saying how it worked in your favor. That's your reframe column. Reframe that ant. So the first column is a list of all your ants, all your automatic negative thoughts. And then your second column is the opposite, the things that you are going to replace the ant with, your automatic positive thoughts. Now, as you're starting, they're not going to be automatic. You're going to have to put in some work and put in some practice and be intentional about replacing this negative thought with this positive thought. But the more you do it, just like we talked about, making the pathway in the road, it'll start to become easier and easier and easier till eventually it's second nature. Have you ever been driving somewhere and you arrive there and you're like, dang, I don't even remember how I got here, because it's automatic. It's a second nature to you that you can drive. You can be talking on the phone or eating a burger or doing something else and not paying attention to the road because you've taken that road so many times. It's second nature that you can essentially do it in your sleep. That's what we're doing. We are changing the ants, the automatic negative thoughts, into apps. Apps. Apt. 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 Automatic positive thoughts. So you got your ants in column 1, your apt, APT, in column 2, and then you have your reframe in column 3, where you are reframing your ant. Okay? Saying, well, what else could come of this ant? Or what are other ways to look at this ant? Or what lessons did I learn from this ant that I don't want to repeat in the future? Nancy says, yes, over on Clubhouse, doing an audit. God works wonders always. Hey, PJ. Hey, Cheryl. And I like that you called it doing an audit, because essentially that's what we're doing. We are auditing our thoughts, just like how in previous days I said to audit your relationships. Okay. Yes. Carlika says you're over in the Instagram notes, your automatic positive thoughts. You got it? So that is your day 34 intentional insight and act. You're going to collect and release your ants. So you're collecting them in your column 1, and you are finding the opposite and reframing them in column 2 and column 3. And then after you're done with that, you're going to focus on column 2 and column 3, because remember, where your focus goes, your energy flows, and the things you focus on, you attract more of into your life. And as you are focusing on column 2 and column 3, you're going to slowly release column 1. And that doesn't mean that they won't pop up here and there. We're only human. But then what are we going to do? We're going to look back at how far we've came, because we made that marker and we've noted our starting point. So we can say, okay, today was a bad day, but yesterday I did awesome. And moving forward, I'm going to get back on the wagon. I'm going to tell John to get in the passenger seat because John tried to take over today. John tried to take over my thoughts and control my life on today. But John, I'm going to need you to back up out of my driver's seat. Get in the back seat, matter of fact. You ain't even welcome in my passenger seat because you're too close for comfort. So get in the passenger seat on the back side of the passenger. So not even right behind me. Get in the passenger back side of my car. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and throw you in the trunk. For real, for real. Okay? So that is all that I have for you guys on day 34 of Devotional Time for Mindset. If you are new here, we are here every day, same time, same place at midnight Eastern time. So if you are in a different time zone from around the world, please make sure you convert your time zone so it's midnight Eastern. And then make sure you go to mindsetmastersuite.com. That is where you can download your free copy of Battlefield of the Mind Devotional by Joyce Meyer. And this is the book that this devotional is guided by. So every day we read the devotional and then we have a discussion about the topic, which is what we just ended. And then we end every devotional with a daily intentional insight or act for us to focus on for the next 24 hours. And so, one more thing, guys. I don't want you guys to collect and release your ants next week. Okay, I want you to find some time to do it in the next 24 hours before we meet back here tomorrow. All right? Because what's going to happen, you're going to say, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it. And while you're getting to it, John is working his way back up to the driver's seat. All right? And then tomorrow we'll have something else to do. And then I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it. And then by the end of the week, you're going to be like, dang, now I'm overwhelmed because I haven't done any of the intentional acts for the past week. So now I'm feeling overwhelmed and that's making me anxious. I don't have the energy to do it all at once, which is what the enemy wants you to do. He's going to try to stop you from doing the things that you need to do to help improve your circumstances and improve your thinking and to help you walk in your purpose. He doesn't want you to walk in your purpose, remember? So he's gonna throw distractions at you. He's gonna try to hold you back from reading your word. He's gonna try to stop you from praising the Lord. He's gonna try to stop you from practicing focused gratitude and instead focusing on all the negative. He wants you to focus on column one and nothing else. But if we're mindful of that and aware of that in advance, then we already know, okay, John's going to try to slide back in this driver's seat and he's probably going to do it around noon today, but I'm not going to let him. You guys got it? Nancy says, good night. And I'm going to take a note from Nancy. That is a wrap. Remember, mindsetmastersuite.com is where you can find all things devotional time for mindset. So please go submit your prayer requests. Please, if this devotional has helped you in any way so far in the past 34 days, please click on the leave a testimony button. And if you don't, because I am going to share them, but if you don't want to say your name, I'd only share your first name first off. Just put, please keep anonymous, okay? And I won't say your name at all, not your first name or anything. So please share your testimonies because I want to make sure that our time here is actually making a difference and an impact. And I know it is, but it's good to just have it in writing sometimes and let other people see it from other people's mouths, not from my mouth. It's like when the car guy is trying to sell you a car and you're like, well, I don't want to hear how good the car is from you. You trying to get me to buy it. I want to hear how good the car is from somebody else, right? So please share your testimonies with me of how devotional time for mindset has impacted your life in this past 34 days. And know that we are here every day, same time, same place, as we continue on our 100-day journey. So we'll be here through mid-April, guys, every day, weekends and holidays included. So make sure you do the time conversion Eastern time zone. So figure out what time that is for you. Carlika says, great session. Thank you, Carlika. Tomorrow we will be back for day 35, devotional time for mindset. That is a wrap on day 34. MindsetMasterSuite.com is where you can find all the things. Invite your friends, invite your family, share the live streams, go to YouTube and watch the replay. What's the YouTube? MindsetMasterSuite.com has the direct link to all the things that you need. Okay. So I love you, family. Thank you for allowing me to guide you on this journey. I don't take it lightly. I am thinking of you often and praying for you always. Until next time, I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye, guys. Mhm. Thanks, Joyce. She said this is good stuff. You guys get to watch me while I turn off all the different platforms.